Okay, I talked about that event I covered in Aston, Pennsylvania back in September, where I met a lot of great people who just so happened to be living in the area near where I am from, in a little bit south of Philadelphia, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. We talked to Joanne McLaughlin just now, and let's talk to someone else I met at that very same event, even though she's not really a native Philadelphian so you're not going to get a great Philadelphia accent like you heard on Joanne. She's from Alabama originally, but it was a pleasure talking to her, meeting her, and keeping in touch with her. I'm talking about Kathy Barnette, whose Facebook Live streams are pretty popular, and it's Barnette if you want to find her, and Kathy at the beginning. But anyhow, Kathy, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on, Adam.
All right, so let's talk about strategy, which you said you wanted to talk about in particular. What Trump is to do now that Russia's going to be getting the back burner, that Comey can stop being a nuisance, etc. Let's hear what you have to say about strategy.
Okay, well, let me just first start off to say I do not believe that Russia is going to go to the back burners, because I believe that is the only strategy that the Democratic Party has in making America great again. Russia, Russia, Russia. They have nothing else. So if they let Russia go, now we will all have the ability to just focus on the fact that they're acting like obstructionists and that they're a party of no. So I do not believe that we've heard the last of the Russia commentary, although Comey himself has admitted that Donald Trump, up to this point, was not under investigation. One would think that the Democratic Party would now recognize that there's no there, and they will move on. But I do not believe that's going to be the case. In fact, I believe it's going to get amped up. Coming this week, tomorrow, actually, I believe, Jeff Sessions is scheduled to go before the Senate hearing committee, and Chuck Schumer has now formally invited President Trump to come on. And if you recall last week, President Trump responded to a reporter saying he would gladly go and testify under oath before that Senate. And so to our earlier point, I do not believe we've heard the end of Russia, because the Democrats have nothing else besides a bunch of F-bombs that they continue to throw out every time they go to a young conference, a youthful conference, and Russia. That's the strategy.
Yeah. What did you think of that by Kristen Gillibrand? I mean, it's just so almost condescending yet vulgar at the same time, which is hard to do.
It tells you about what they think about their constituents, right? Because if someone was coming to talk to me and trying to endeavor me to yield my vote to them, and if they came to me with a mouthful of foul words, that will immediately cut off the conversation, because I don't speak that language. And you need to come to me from a concerted, cerebral perspective. You have to come to me with logic and strength and strategy, but it says a lot about what they think about their constituents, those who are listening to their message, when they can come, crack jokes, throw out a couple of F-bombs and get the people all riled up and then go home, having left them no better than when they came.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Just to your earlier point, it says a lot about what they think about their constituents. But again, I don't even think their constituents, even if their constituents was listening to me right now, this will completely fly over their head. They do not care, because that's the caliber of the person that they are. They're completely emotion-driven. Logic has left the building.
And what's funny, by the way, is it's so calculated. Kristen Gillibrand doesn't talk like this. And full disclosure, you didn't hear it, but I interviewed Joanne McLaughlin, who was also at that rally where I met you. And it is the way a lot of middle-class people in the Philadelphia area, for example, do talk. And it's just the natural way of speaking. That's not necessarily good or bad, but it's just a natural sort of way. Some people talk a little cruder than others. But in her case, Gillibrand, it was so obviously calculated.
No. Not someone in Congress, not someone who has attained that level of authority and position. Come on now. I mean, I worked in the Wall Street environment. I've worked in corporate America. I've worked as an adjunct professor. I am regularly on Fox and Friends, and people at that caliber, we don't speak like that.
No, I know.
We don't talk like that, right? Because our vocabulary has expanded. Now, maybe, amongst your friends, drinking a bunch of, I don't know, pops or whatever. I don't drink alcohol, but whatever people drink, maybe you will let, an inappropriate word slip. But on national television, where your message is going to get out to millions of people, we don't speak like that unless it is completely contrived.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that, like, you're from Alabama. People are a little more guarded with their speech down south, I would say, than in the Philadelphia area.
Well, I've been here now, a little bit over 3 years, and again, I know people talk the way they, speak however they want to speak, and there's no judgment in and of itself about people, having whatever vernacular they want to use. But you and I both know, at that level, a Congress lady.
Yes.
That is completely contrived. It's like the president coming out now and saying that. Now, as a private citizen, you say whatever you want to say. You can express yourself however you want. But when you are representing the nation, we don't speak like that unless we recognize it's a part of our strategy, because those who will follow us are simpletons, and they're completely emotionally driven, and so we can speak to them because they understand that.
And I have to say something personal, like from when I just met you. It's not okay with you, clearly, to talk like that now, because I could see how much of a gentleman your son, who you brought to that rally, was. It caught my eye when I was interviewing people, like, well-dressed, and just the way he was standing, and you could tell this was a well-raised kid, like that very few kids are today. But it was eye-catching that this was, and he was I didn't hear him speak before I saw that, but I saw you there, and it's a certain sort of dignity, I guess, is the word that is so missing.
It is.
And I only have a minute left, but maybe you could just talk about that in general. Because I know
the bar has been, and in addition, I believe you also know that I homeschool my children.
I didn't know that,
because
actually.
You did, right?
No, I did not, actually.
Oh, yes, I do. Because much of what we see in public school is edutainment. It's all about entertaining their children, and they've taken out the rigor. They have lowered the bar. Multiplication tables, for example, are not even taught in most of public schools.
Oh.
It's very rare that children are expected to rote memorize the multiplication table. Geography. Most kids don't know where North Korea is, and yet most adults I talk to don't know where North Korea is.
Right.
But North Korea is constantly in the news, and so for that reason, because my husband and I recognize a shift in our culture to edutainment is what I call it, just entertaining children. They throw in a little bit of social studies, science, math, and those particular subjects. But it's really about culturally engineering the children the way they see that they should go. And so my husband and I felt like we could do a better job than what we were seeing, the product. And again, I was an adjunct professor. I taught corporate finance and economics. And so I got the opportunity to see a number of young people coming out of the public school system, and some of them not even knowing that you're supposed to work inside the parentheses before you work outside the parentheses.
Right.
So again, my husband and I felt that we could do a better job. And really, it is all about raising the bar. And I believe the bar in our culture is being dumbed down to the lowest common denominator.
Great. Kathy, best way for people to follow you is Facebook Live or Twitter as well.
Yes, they can. You can go to Kathy for Truth on Facebook or Kathy for Truth in Twitter. You can also go to Truth Exchange with Kathy Barnette. You can find me there as well.
All right, Kathy, great having you on.
Thank you.